Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. Let's have a look at the Final Fantasy Monster Strike collaboration. And just to warn you, this might be a video as much about Final Fantasy as it is about Monster Strike, but let's go through the Monsterpedia, let's look at all the characters available here. And first up is Squall, but we'll skip him for now. He has a new version, so I'll talk about him all together at the end. And then here are 4-star Hatcher monsters, Butts and Von. I will not talk about their abilities in detail, but they're good to have, so hang on to them, level them up, and then you can use them in 5-star and under quests. Last year, the kind of the premier monster was Lightning. No new upgrades for this year, but still a pretty good character. Evolution is a Pierce with no gravity barrier, no block. A super slice and dice bump combo, and then a strong strike shot. I'm not going to talk about most of these strike shots. You can check out the videos on the official YouTube channel to see what those look like. But they're all generally pretty strong, and they have their special effects just for the collaboration, so they're pretty cool. The Ascension, no gravity barrier, no warp, bounce, so very versatile across her 2 forms. And should be best for beginning players. I don't have a lot of other characters, so pretty good. Never played 13, so I can't really speak to it. I know Lightning mostly from her ads that she did with Louis Vuitton, but pretty cool. Next up is Cloud, also got a new version, so we'll talk about him later. Next is Gilgamesh. He's one of the drop monsters, and he was the one last year that you play and then you get 1 guaranteed drop per run. I would say that is not worth doing this year. He has fewer appearances than he did last year, and then also his character's not so hot, and it takes a lot of stamina to make a max look of the character that only drops 1 per run. So I would skip him, but he is from Final Fantasy V, which I like, but it's not as how can I say this? It doesn't have as much personality as 4 or 6, I would say. The most interesting thing about it is the job system, where you can change classes of your characters and then get abilities and kind of mix and match the abilities. But yeah, if you've not played 5, I could recommend it. Alright, and then here's these 2 guys, Reigns and Gabranth, and they are the drop 4-star monsters. They could also be good to hang on to one of them to use in 5-star quests. If you were to make 1 max luck of the old drop monsters, I would say Sephiroth from 7. He's a bounce with no gravity barrier, no block, which is not a very common double null ability. Except we have Jekt, who is one of the current Final Fantasy quests, and I would say he's better than Sephiroth's. I'll talk about him later. And then here's Artemisia. She's a bounce with a flight null damage wall, and anytime that there's a new drop character with that null ability combination, I have to ask myself, are they better than Kushinada? And the answer is always no, so I would skip her. And then unfortunately there's a few characters that are not available this year. One is Yashutra. She's cool, but she's not super powerful, so that's not a big loss. And then there's Mog, 5-star monster. I'd want it just for the nostalgia's sake, but, not very necessary character. And then there's Sabotenda, but there's a new version for us this year, so not a big deal there either. Alright, so that's a quick look at last year's event, and then let's look at this year's. So first, here's the new Ascension version of Squall, and then he's there with Laguna. Bounce with Minesweeper and Null Block. Not a super versatile double null ability. But what they often do for collaboration characters is that they'll design new quests just for these characters. So we'll see maybe in the next 6 months they'll become more useful. Pretty good bump combo set. The Barrage Shotgun and then the Speed Up S. So decent damage, decent support. I think for most people, though, the evolution form is going to be better. Bounce with Minesweeper, no gravity barrier. So you could use him for all of the Wood Colossal quests, actually. Shambhala, Magmal, and then Eschatology. So he's pretty versatile. the speed up bump combo, which is better than the speed up S. And yeah, pretty good, I think. Never played 8 either. And that was probably because I was burned by 7, which I did not like. I know that won't make me very popular, but 7, I didn't enjoy the story or the characters or the graphics or the music or the game system. The game system in particularly, that kind of killed it for me. Because you can equip, materia to anybody, like different skills or spells or whatever. So the characters are really interchangeable. I like when a character has like a set role, and then you can, build your team based on what you need for a fight. And 7 didn't provide that for me. So from a gameplay aspect, I thought 7 was not very good. But anyway, here's Cloud. This is the Advent Children version. And he looks pretty cool. He's a Pierce with no damage wall, no warp. So I would like to try him out in Eden and Yumiru. I think he could be good in there. His bump combo, he's got the Super Slice and Dice, and then he's got the Hit Everybody Meteor, which could be especially good for Yumiru, because there's a lot of enemies with a weak point in the middle of them, so that could be good. And then the Omni Slash Advent Children version, where there's like multiple of him and then they hit the target. So that's pretty cool. Evolution form, not so great. Bounce with null damage wall and null magic circle. That's not too versatile, but if you were making the max look of Jun, like I am, then he could be useful in there. Also Omni Slash Strike Shot, but this is more of a tackle version. So, pretty decent there. Here is Tina from 6, one of my favorite Final Fantasies. It also kind of suffers from that same gameplay issue as 7, where you can take espers and equip them on anybody and give anybody any spell. But one fun way to play through 6 is to never equip espers, and so the only abilities that people have are the ones that they have naturally in them. So like Edgar, he can only use his tools. Cyan can only use his sword tech. And so when you're limited in that way, characters like Strago and Gao are suddenly very good because they have access to magic that you wouldn't usually. So give that a try if you haven't before. It's actually not as difficult as it might seem, and it's more fun, I would say, so you can give that a try. And then here, this is Tidus and Luna Yuna from Final Fantasy X. Also not a fan of 10, I know that will make me even less popular. Also did not like the music or the characters or the look or anything. But I did like Final Fantasy X-2, which is Yuna, Riku, and Pain, being like a girl band, like Sailor Moon type of a thing, so that was pretty cool. Evolution form here is a Bounce with Minesweeper and Null Warp, and this is also the Super Null Warp, so extra attack based on how many warps are on the field. Very good bump combo. It's the Lock-On Rebound Laser EL, and they are a blast type, so that's good damage and then covers a lot of the screen. Strong Strike Shot, it's like a combination Pierce, Tackle, Meteor, Strike Shot. The Ascension form is the one that I'm very interested in though. Bounce with null damage wall, and then Recovery, and Status Recovery. So very good support abilities, but very good attack abilities as well. The bump combo is that Rebound Shockwave, and she's a Blast type. And then every rebound that a Shockwave has, it does more damage. But it only rebounds if it hits an enemy. So like on a stage with like a lot of shields or something, if that Shockwave bounces around a lot, that could be a lot of damage. And then the Expanding Bomb, which is also pretty good. And then the Strike Shot is very, very good. It's like a multiple homing shot, but it won't be affected by homing absorbers or laser barriers, so very, very strong. I'd really like this character. And then here we have Zidane from Final Fantasy IX. That's my favorite of the PlayStation Final Fantasies. Especially if you're familiar with the older ones, this is a very nostalgic Final Fantasy, so you can give that a try. And then here is Cecil from Final Fantasy IV. One of the 3 perfect Final Fantasies, I would say. 1, 4, and 12. Because the world is cool, the music is good, and then the characters have that kind of, their roles are split up. So you can use them, based on what you need for a fight. And then I mentioned this in the video where I pull, but this character is so-so, Pierce with Minesweeper and the Weak Point Slayer. So not super versatile, but you could kind of force him into missions with like other gimmicks just to take advantage of his high attack and his Weak Point Slayer. Bump combo is also pretty good. I also got the bump combo critical. The strike shot, it's a speed and power up, and then he gets the ability to cover your teammates. But I've seen a couple videos where they try out this cover ability, and it's not as good as people were hoping. So I would say focus on using it as a speed and power up, which is fine because he's a Pierce with the Weak Point Slayer. But I wouldn't rely on the cover too much, which is too bad, but oh well. And next up we got Noctis, also pretty cool, from Final Fantasy 15. And then he's pretty good, pretty solid. Bounce with null gravity barrier, null block, and no gauge there, which is nice. He's also a blast type, and then he has the lock-on hit everybody shockwave. So yeah, 30,000 damage per hit, and everybody gets 3 hits. That's pretty crazy. And then a strike shot is, which is pretty strong too. Every time he hits a character, they'll be hit 3 times with like phantom weapons, and his speed goes way up, so that's lots of hits. Pretty strong strike shot there. And 15 was fun, I liked it. It was different from any previous Final Fantasy, but I never finished it. I moved, I got rid of my PlayStation 4, so I don't know. Maybe I'll pick it up again someday. But here is Kefka. He's the first drop monster of this current collaboration. And a very, very cool bad guy. And then here is the evolution form. Pierce with the flight, null wind, null gravity barrier. And the Pierce, flight, null gravity barrier is a very rare combination for a drop monster. And then I think so far only Impossible monsters or collaboration limited monsters have this ability. So if for some reason you missed Carol at Christmas and you have no other flight, Pierce, null gravity barrier drop monster, I would definitely try to make the max luck of this guy. And then here is Jecht. And then he is the character where his quest, if you clear once, you get 1 drop. So yeah, it's going to take a lot of stamina and a lot of time to finish the max luck of this guy. But he could be worth it. He has a bounce with null gravity barrier, null block. And he has no gauge, which is really nice. Because especially for command strike shots, he can move freely through blocks and gravity barriers. And then this will come up if you use him with a Hold Eye in Arcadia. Also, if you use him with Nobunaga X, she has the Grand Command Strike Shot, and they're both null gravity barrier characters, so you might use them together. And then also with Beethoven, he also has the Grand Command Strike Shot and the same double null ability. So, yeah, I would recommend make the max luck of this guy instead of Sephiroth. They have the same, sling style null ability combination. And then you can also use him for Arcadia, so he's pretty good. And then here are the drop 4-star monsters, Shantoto and Kuja. Shantoto's from 14, I think. It's the online game. And then Kuja is the bad guy from 9. He's pretty cool. Here is Golbez, bad guy from 4. Very excited to get this guy. He is a bounce with null warp, which I already have 3 of. I have Hendrickson and Uncle and Nadeko, so I don't really need another max luck of that. But he's got the null wind, so hopefully that will be an ability that will, get more use this year. But it wouldn't matter if he didn't have any null abilities at all, because he's just very cool. He has the Flare Bump combo, which I'm a fan of. It's a short range, but it does decent damage, and it can stun, so I'm looking forward to that. And I think very, very few drop monsters have this bump combo, so that's pretty good. The strike shot might be the main reason to use him, though. He gets speed up, and then, gets more hits in there. and then he hits everybody on screen with his double meteor. If you've heard me talk about Asuka and her strike shot, the reason why that is so good is because she doesn't need to move, so it doesn't matter what the gimmicks are, but she sends out that sword, and she can hit everybody on screen with a meteor strike shot without moving. So that's very nice. You don't need to worry about gimmicks, you don't need to worry about making sure you hit everybody. And then Golbez could be the same as far as usability. I'm pretty sure it's not going to do as much damage as Asuka's strike shot, but yeah, his strike shot could be really, really good. Alright, and then finally we have the Warriors of Light. These are the protagonists from Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3, and I was super happy to see these guys included. And yeah, it's probably because of the release of Final Fantasy Dissidia, kind of that fighting game where it takes characters from every Final Fantasy, that they are in this collaboration here. So first here we have a Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 1, Bounce with Minesweeper and Fiendslayer, which is decent. I would save him only for Fiend boss quests. Otherwise, I don't know if he's that great. Next up we have Firion from Final Fantasy 2, and I think most people think he is the best version of this Warriors of Light trio. He's a bounce with no gravity barrier. There are a ton of light characters with bounce no gravity barrier, but he has Drain, like Pandora and Bon and Tsubasa, which is pretty good, especially if you can get a pinch shot in. You can get a lot of HP in. And then if there's some kind of like multiplier on the damage, that could fill your HP gauge. So yeah, look to use him in places where you need to pinch in null gravity barrier quests. He could be good in there. The one that I'm the most interested in though is the Onion Knight from Final Fantasy III. Pierce with null wind, null warp. And that's a very rare sling style double null ability, especially for a drop monster. So he has the most potential, I would say, in the future. But yeah, you can, get one drop of this guy, and then you can, change in between the three versions without any materials. So that's very nice. And then before these guys' stats were released, I was thinking maybe it would be cool to put an enable berry, a hero scroll on these guys, just because they would have a lot of versatility across the three versions. But they're not that good, I would say, so I don't know. It's nice to have the three, but I don't think it's worth putting a hero scroll on them. Maybe later there will be like an Impossible or Colossal quest where Onion Knight is really good. Then it might be useful to put the hero scroll on him, but until we get that information, I would hold off on that. Okay, so that was a quick rundown of all of the new characters available in Final Fantasy, the collaboration. There's a lot of them. Just to recap, I would say the max luck most worth making is going to be Kefka here, just for all-around versatility. And then Jekt, especially if you need a max luck for Arcadia. And then the Hatcher monsters most worth going after, I would say, are Yuna, the Ascension version. And then personally, I would like the Ascension version of Cloud for Eden, and then Yumiru. And of course go after all of the base 4-star monsters. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you again. Take care.